Okay, Chapter 13, test review. This test is 22 multiple choice questions and then about 8 kind of complete the sentence or fill in the blank answers. We're going to start with voter participation in 1840. Voter participation in 1840 was nearly 80%. 80% realized that in 1840 only rich white men participated, but voter participation was very high. It hadn't dropped the property qualification yet, and so 80% was participation rate. Andrew Jackson, Henry Clay, Calhoun, Crawford, and Adams. You need to know kind of some specifics about these people. Andrew Jackson was somebody who received more popular votes than any other candidate in the election of 1824. He also received a higher electoral college vote count. Nonetheless, he did not get a majority of either. Therefore, because of the corrupt bargain, Henry Clay, the Speaker of House, became Secretary of State for John Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams won the election of 1824. John Calhoun was then the vice president for John Quincy Adams. Crawford was the candidate as well, but was thrown out basically when he suffers a stroke. So the 4 candidates in 1824 are Jackson, Clay, Crawford, and Adams. Adams wins. Calhoun is vice president. Later on then, in 1828, Jackson does come back and win the election and introduces the spoils system. The spoils system results in hiring a lot of Jackson's political supporters to public office. The spoils system under Andrew Jackson resulted in the appointment of many corrupt and incompetent officials to federal jobs, but they were throw those rascals out and put our rascals in. It was in your chapter. The tariff of 1833, there was a strong regional support for the tariff of 1833, and this came from New England. The Northeast supported the tariff of 1833. In response to South Carolina's nullification of the tariff of 1828, Andrew Jackson dispatched military forces to South Carolina. This nullification crisis started by South Carolina was over the tariff of 1828, and it ended when Congress passed the compromise tariff of 1833. So the original tariff is 1828, and that starts the nullification crisis. Remember that Calhoun is from this state, and he's also a former vice president. The compromise of the tariff of 1833 then resolves this conflict. All right, Andrew Jackson, his administration supported the removal of Native Americans from the eastern states because whites wanted that land, especially in the northern part of Georgia. Policy of Jackson's administration towards eastern Indian tribes was of forced removal. Then Andrew Jackson also has a battle with the bank. The second bank of the United States was the depository of the funds of the national government. And Andrew Jackson based his veto of the recharter bill for the Bank of the United States on the fact that he found the bill harmful and the bank harmful to the nation. So Jackson vetoed the bank charter. Congress, however, overrode his veto. Then there's an Anti-Masonic Party. This Anti-Masonic Party of 1832 appealed to Americans' suspicions of secret societies. The cement that held the Whig Party together was a combined hatred of Andrew Jackson. The Whig Party was against Andrew Jackson. A couple of questions about Texas then. Americans moved into Texas after there was an agreement between the Mexican government and Stephen Austin. Texas won their independence after their victory over Mexico at the Battle of San Jacinto. San Jacinto follows the Alamo, and the rallying cry at San Jacinto was, "Remember the Alamo." One reason for the Anglo-Texan rebellion against Mexico rule was that the Anglo-Texans wanted to break away from a government that had grown too authoritarian. So they felt like the Mexican government was becoming too powerful, too authoritarian, and a little bit too much like the British government, or a little bit too much like the king, and so they wanted to break away. These are the Anglo-Texan rebellion against Mexico. So that's the Texas War against Mexico for their independence. Presidents Jackson and Van Buren hesitated to extend recognition or annexation to Texas because of the anti-slavery groups in the United States. They opposed this possible spread of slavery into Texas. And then we have the election of 1840, and the Tippecanoe in the Whigs' 1840 campaign slogan was William Henry Harrison. So it's Tippecanoe and Tyler too. Who is Tippecanoe? He's the general at the Battle of Tippecanoe, William Henry Harrison. William Henry Harrison, the Whigs Party presidential candidate in 1840, was made to look like a poor Western farmer. However, he was not. But it was the hard cider and log cabin campaign, when in fact he was fairly wealthy, and he had what is referred to in your book as FFV. He was from a favorite family of Virginia. So when the statement is read, "Old Tip, he wears a homespun shirt. He has no ruffled shirt, but Matt, he has a golden plate, and he's a little squirt." They're talking about how William Henry Harrison is from a log cabin. He's a man of the people. He's a general. But let me read this next statement. "The Whig campaign of 1840 was a masterpiece of inane hoopla. Log cabins were dished up in every conceivable form. Bowling Whigs, stimulated by fortified cider, rolled huge inflatable balls from village to village and state to state, balls that represented the snowballing majority for Tippecanoe and Tyler too. In truth, Harrison was not a lowborn, but from one of the FFVs." What is FFV? It's Favorite Family of Virginia. So that's pretty much the review for Chapter 13. 22 multiple choice questions. Oh, and then also just a couple of fill-in-the-blanks here. In 1824, who won the most electoral votes in the presidential election? Well, the most electoral votes was won by Jackson. Who won the most popular votes in 1824? Jackson. Who became president in 1824? Adams. And Adams' Secretary of State was Henry Clay. And remember that Van Buren is sometimes described as a first-class, second-rate man. Van Buren also was known as the Little Magician. And then lastly, who invented the Arkansas toothpick? And that's Bowie or Bowie, however you choose to pronounce it. Bowie. All right, that's the review for Chapter 13 test.